Welcome back, Phil 301. Dr. K here. I hope you all are doing well. In our last two videos, we talked about Ghazali's account or understanding of the heart. In the last video in particular, we saw his characterization of the heart in terms of the relation it stands in to other elements of a human being. In this video, we're going to look at Ghazali's argument for the existence or reality of the heart, an argument which I call the argument from direct experience. In preparation for discussing that argument, let's first begin by refreshing ourselves with some of the main points Ghazali has made about the heart thus far. So remember when we were discussing his account of human beings, he said there was two main parts of the human being, external form and inner spirit, which he also calls the heart, among other terms. So remember he said that it's not physical and it can't be seen by the external eyes or the eyes of the body. It's something that's seen by inner vision or insight alone. It's not part of the visible world. It's fit to rule the body. It is the subject of knowledge. That's to say, it's what knows and witnesses, for example, the beauty of God. It's what has moral obligations, and what is punished is happy or miserable. And as we discussed in the last video, he takes the heart to not be identical to any of the following things: sensory or bodily perceptions, the whole body itself, bodily movements, that could be movements of the whole body or firings of neurons in the nervous system. It's not identical to thoughts or imaginings or images one might have in one's mind. It's way deeper down than these things. It is what either causes these things or is aware of them, or in some cases both, but it's not identical to any of them, right? So all these things could cease to exist and the heart still exists. And remember, since Ghazali identifies you or self in the true sense with the heart, all these things could cease to exist and you still exist. But even further than that, the whole physical or visible world could cease to exist and you still exist. So having refreshed ourselves with some of the main points involved in Ghazali's account of the heart, one question which you might have, or which you should have, is why the hell think anything like that exists, right? What reason does Ghazali give to motivate us to believe in the existence of the heart under this conception? So let's now turn to examining Ghazali's argument for the heart, an argument which I call the argument from direct experience. The gist of the argument is that the heart, in the way Ghazali has characterized it, exists because you can directly see or experience it. Hence the title I've given it, the argument from direct experience. So let's have a read through each of the main claims in the argument. Premise 1, you can directly experience the true self or the heart. As Ghazali says, if a person closes his eyes, forgets about his body, forgets about the heaven, the earth, and all else that the external eye or the eyes of the body can see, he will come to know his own existence out of necessity and become aware of himself, even though he is unaware of his form and the earth and the sky and all that is in them. Right? So if we meditate inward or go inward so that we forget even that we have a body, we block out physical sensations, you can still have awareness of yourself as a thinking thing, as a thing that's capable of producing thoughts, imaginings, right? You can still be aware of the existence of what Ghazali calls the heart, right? It's not something that you're experiencing through the eyes of the body. In the case Ghazali is talking about, one has gone inward and the eyes of the body are closed, either literally or figuratively, because one has gone so far inward that they're not even paying attention anymore to sensory data. Right? So the awareness is had through something else. Ghazali would say it is the heart perceiving or becoming aware of itself. Premise two, if you can directly experience the heart or the self, then the heart, the self exists. Right? So you can't truly experience something that doesn't exist. And if you experience something, then it at least has to have some kind of existence, does it not? That is the idea with premise two. So to sum up and conclude the argument, premise one, you can directly experience the self or the heart. Premise two, well, if you can directly experience the self or heart, then the self or heart exists. And the conclusion in three, thus the self or the heart, as Ghazali has characterized it, exists. All right, guys, so in this video, we started by summarizing some of the main points that Ghazali has made about the heart up to this point. And then we had a look at his argument from direct experience for the existence or reality of the heart. Of course, there's always more to say. And if you have something to say, then I'd love to see it in the comments below. I urge you, for every argument that we consider in this class, to always ask yourself two questions. Is it valid? That's to say, if the premises were true, then would they add up to the conclusion? And are the premises true? So I urge you to ask those questions about this argument now in particular. I anticipate that one worry you might have about the argument concerns premise one. You might say, well, look, part of the way Ghazali characterized the self is as something that uses the body or is directly in control of the body. And in the scenario that he talks about, you're supposed to forget you have a body. So how, in that scenario, are you able to experience the self or the heart as something that is fitted to rule over the body or direct the movements of the body when in that scenario you're supposed to forget that you even have a body? Right. So you may say a problem with the argument is that the scenario Ghazali uses to motivate premise one, it's not fitted to show all the things that Ghazali has said about the heart or all the ways in which he's characterized it. Namely, for example, when he says it's supposed to be what causes the movements of the body. That scenario doesn't allow you to experience something with that particular function. I would think that's a fair question or challenge to the argument. But how might Ghazali respond? Try to get now into Ghazali's head and think about how he might respond to that. When I do that, I think that he may say something like the following. He may say, well, okay, if you follow my advice and go inward, you can experience something that has many of the features with which I characterize the heart as having. And then after you're aware of that thing, then you could try to turn your attention to that thing amidst your being aware you have a body, amidst your being aware of sensory experience. And you could identify it amidst all that because you've seen it without all that. Now you know what it is. And when you're looking at it while you're aware, you're a human being and you have a body, you could also observe the heart initiating the body, doing the things that it does, whether it's talking, moving it around the room, etc. So in that way, that function that Ghazali characterizes the heart as having would also be directly experienceable just later down the line. So ultimately, the heart, as Ghazali characterized it, is directly experienceable. Just may be that some features have to be experienced at different times than others. All right, guys, so that's just one point at which I thought you guys might have some questions. I'm sure there are others, and if you want to share them, do so below. In the next video, we're going to continue discussing Ghazali's take on the heart. In particular, we are going to begin our examination of his arguments for the non-physicality or incorporeality of the heart. And again, since he identifies the heart with you in the true sense, we can also look at these arguments as arguments for your incorporeality or non-physicality. So I'll see you in the next video. Dr. K out.